never give him the respect, that he probably deserves. And that's just the way it is. And like I say, the game hasn't changed. Kobe said it. LeBron said it. And so we're going to hold him to the same high standard.
Whether he won a championship or not with the Warriors, how he did it, he drove the bus. He talks about driving a bus, right? Like, maybe it wasn't his bus, but he took the keys and he drove it. And he was the best player on that team.
Keyshawn, Jay Will, and Max. Brought to you by Capital One with no fees or minimums and no overdraft fees. Banking with Capital One is the easiest decision in the history of decisions. That's banking reimagined. What's in your wallet? Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com/bank for details. Capital One N.A., member FDIC. And joining us now, our old friend, ESPN NBA senior writer. It's Dr. Dre, y'all. Andre Snellings. What's up, Dre?
What up, Dre?
Good morning, fellas.
Oh, you up
get
today?
Up early to hang with you guys.
Yeah, you up today though.
The good doctor is in there.
Oh yeah.
So
caffeine in my system.
Ooh, let's go. Let's get it.
Dre, does Kevin Durant need to win a title without the Warriors? Not a 73-win team he just joins, ready-made, let's go. We already know he can ball. To prove he is in the highest echelon of all-time greats, the answer is yes. But what do you say?
The answer is definitely yes for barbershop conversations and for this conversation. I personally am not a ring counter. I don't look at rings and say, oh, this changes how I think this player performed. I thought Durant was the same player in Oklahoma City as he was in Golden State, as he is in Brooklyn. I'm confident that I can see and I can evaluate what he is. But for these conversations and for the conversations he wants to have and the narrative he wants to have for his career, yeah, especially after the Warriors won this season, people are going to look at KD differently unless and until he shows he can do it without the Warriors team.
Snell, let me ask you this, man, because I was talking to Max and Jay the other day, and you know, I'm a basketball fan, and I'm looking at the Warriors get their fourth chip, and I'm saying to myself, they done found this Andrew Wiggins kid. He's not Kevin Durant. He's number one overall pick, not Kevin Durant or whatever. And I'm looking at it, and I'm saying to myself, man, I wonder if the Warriors would have won in 17 and 18 if they had a Wiggins type instead of a Kevin Durant with everything that they already had. Well, they have
the fence is 300 feet away. A home run, you can hit a 350-foot home run. You don't need to hit it 500 feet to hit a home run.
Dre. What you think, Snell?
Dre, go ahead, Dre.
I can hear the pain in Jay's voice. Here's the thing. This Warriors team, you know, pre-Durant, with Durant, after Durant, it was great. Durant's an outstanding player, and the fact that we're even talking about him anywhere near the top 10 in NBA history should show that. But if you break it down just looking at the analytics, I'm a nerd. I do that. It was clear who the most important player on the Warriors, especially for the offense, was during this entire era. And it was not Kevin Durant. Even when he got to Golden State, if you look at the impact stats, which I like to look at, you know, ESPN has one real plus minus. The top player in the NBA in 2016 and 17, which was the year before and the year of Durant, was Steph Curry. You know, Kevin Durant has only been in the top 5 in real plus minus 3 times in his entire career, you know, and that's including every stop he's made, because he's an excellent finisher. He might be the greatest scorer that this game has ever seen. But when it comes to changing the way his offense and or his defense performs, he doesn't have the same level of impact on his team's offense that Steph Curry does. Because Steph Curry is not just scoring and you know, putting up points. He's changing the way opposing defenses have to guard their whole team. So even if KD gets 30 and Steph gets 25, the way that the defense defends the Warriors is much more predicated on Curry's presence than it was on KD's. So, yes, possibly if you had an Andrew Wiggins-type performer in that place. I mean, in 2015 and 16, you did with Harrison Barnes, who wasn't even, you know, to Andrew Wiggins' level. So, yes, you can make a strong case that if you had this year's Wiggins in 17 and
Dre.
18, they have a good chance to win those seasons too.
This is the first year Wiggins has been an all-star in his career. He's had a phenomenal year. This has not been like the Wiggins the entire time he's been with the Warriors, first off. Secondly, KD, in those 2 years that they won chips, averaged 25 and 26 in the regular season, a couple of percentage points off 50, 40, 90 each season. So I agree with your point that the offense is predicated around Stephen Curry, built around the continuity of the offensive system. And I'm not diminishing Stephen Curry's importance to the team, but I'm also not diminishing how great of a player Kevin Durant was for them those 2 seasons and how he elevated his performances. Even those numbers go up massively during the playoff performances.
May I say,
real quick, listen to the first thing you said. This is the first year that Andrew Wiggins became an all-star.
Yes.
It was the first year he got to play with Steph, Clay, and Dre.
Fair.
And so, again, this doesn't diminish KD to say that this system with these players was already in place. And so if you
Dre,
add
that's fair.
someone with a type of talent at that small forward position,
I agree,
it gets maximized.
but Dre, this whole thing that we could just plug random players into the system and it's automatically
No,
going
wait
to
a
work
minute.
at that caliber.
I really want to get it. I really want to get in
Jay.
here because I've been holding my tongue, Dre,
Yes,
as you were
you
talking.
have.
I totally agree with your assessment. And by the way, the numbers back it up, your assessment of the impact overall of Steph. He allows you to get there, right? That he is the key that allows you to get there, even with KD there. But in 15, they were clearly inferior to the Cavs, got very lucky that the second and third best players on the Cavs went down, or they lose that series. They went 6 games without Kyrie or Kevin Love. Give me a break. In 16, they lost. 17 and 18, they crushed everything in sight with KD. So there are pivotal, high-leverage moments in the playoffs when KD's otherworldly ability elevates them out of proportion. Like, how do you address that, right? Harrison Barnes could not do that. That's why they were inferior to the Cavs in 2 consecutive seasons when it mattered most. And then later on, Wiggins just did it. They weren't playing the Cavs. They weren't playing LeBron. But okay, he did it, and Steph had a huge series. But until this last season, in the highest leverage moments, Steph was not able to be the best player on the floor. So his team was not the best player on the floor. Kevin Durant was. Isn't that Kevin Durant's value?
Well, so first of all, think where I started. We're talking about Kevin Durant possibly being in the top 10 to 15 to 20 NBA players of all time. Of course, he added something. I'm not saying he wasn't important to the team. What I'm saying is that when we compare him to a guy like Curry, what Durant was bringing was not larger than what Curry was bringing. And so, to your point about what he did in the postseason being important to them, yes, he was a great player. But were he not there, you can't just assume that the team that had won a championship and then the next year won 73 games and was within
Paul
the
George or
presence
Jimmy
of Draymond
Butler were
Green.
there. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's my whole conversation with them. It's not that Kevin Durant didn't make them look invincible. I just look at it and go,
You don't need to hit a 500-foot home run.
You slide a guy in there that got some ability, they may be able to do it. Now, let me ask you this.
Musa. No, don't ask this one. The fact that you're even going to read this question,
I'm not reading anything.
Hold on. I got lambasted a couple of weeks ago
No,
because I didn't give the same answer that on the sheet of paper it said I was supposed to give by the time they asked me the question in real time. And now I can't believe we're about to do this. Key, read the question.
I just want to ask you this.
Read the question.
It's not a question to ask. I'm coming off the top of my head.
Yeah, off the dome.
Yeah, off the dome. That's how the question was created because I was just thinking, as I always do every now and then. So if Kevin Durant is there and he's a Warrior, can we remove Steph Curry with Clay and Draymond and Kevin Durant, and let's say Dame Lillard or Trae Young, and slide them into Golden State? Are they still cooking?
Ooh, all right. So Dame Lillard has that game, and Trae Young does too. So that's not – first of all, I'm just saying this. This isn't an equivalent comparison. Going from Kevin Durant to Andrew Wiggins is not the same as going from Steph Curry to other top 10, 15 players in the NBA. With that said, we've never seen this Warrior system with anybody but Steph in that role. I think they would still be excellent. I mean, you talk about having KD, Dame Lillard, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green as your core, I would think that should still be a contender. But to the point of what we're talking about here, I think that you have to replace Curry with a better player to project a similar level team than if you replace KD with a.
In
other words,
this is why I asked a basketball expert like Dre to tell me, because I can't listen to Jay.
But there are different ways of measuring value, Jay. They're different. Like what Andre Snellings is saying. It seems to me. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dre. Is that you need a closer version to Steph in order to get similar results. You need a farther away version of KD to get similar results. That argues for Steph. But on the other hand, Dre, it still doesn't answer the argument I think Jay started to make that I agree with. The bottom line is when you put KD on a super team, you crush everything in sight. No one has a chance. When you put Steph on a similar kind of team, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. The other team needs to get hurt. I mean, like, that's what we've seen.
Okay, I hear you now. Max doing the Max thing, Dre. Max is bringing you back to the other argument. Let's stay our asses on this thing right here.
Oh, that's what we're arguing, though.
No, but you're bringing it back to KD. I'm bringing we just asked if you could replace Stephen Curry with Trae Young and Dame.
But Dre, you tell me if I'm wrong. Your point is that you need a closer approximation of Steph to achieve the same results than you need of KD,
because
correct?
Because of the system and what they do at Golden State.
Yeah, I mean, clearly, if like Dame Lillard and Trae Young are all NBA players, and they play similarly, at least in a macro sense. They're both excellent shooters. They can control the offense enough because Dre is really the point guard on that team. So, yeah, they should be able to approximate, if you put them next to Kevin Durant and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green, they should still have an excellent team.
So, Dre, give me the equivalent of Andrew Wiggins of the Steph Currys or Jay. Give me, because I'm saying if you have,
I'm not the one that I didn't come up with this conversation.
I'm saying if you have, well, this is what Andre Snellings is talking about.
Me, I don't believe this conversation.
But my contention is this: if you have a healthy Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, Kevin Durant, Andre Iguodala, I'm saying you can have a much lesser version of Steph and still win.
Why are you always throwing Andre Iguodala into this?
Because back then Iguodala was nice.
Yo, this dude is Dre. Hold on,
Dre, nice.
Dre, let me say one thing. Dame is an incredible player. Dope. Same with Trae.
He is.
Like, I think Dame and Trae, there are different levels to it. I think Dame is on a different level than Trae. I think Trae's on his way. The fact that we're trying to say you can accomplish the same, there will still be a contender. I understand that. We are talking about the only unanimous MVP in the history of basketball. We are talking about the greatest shooter in the history of basketball.
You don't need to hit a 500-foot home run. You can hit a 400-foot home run.
The amount of space that he allows players to operate off is drastically different than Trae Young, who does it very differently.
You tell me.
Dame and Trae do it very differently in the state.
Trae Young, Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant, Draymond Green. That's not going to win a championship?
I don't know.
Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson.
But it has to operate very differently. I still think it can win you championships.
Okay.
I don't think it has to operate very differently. Because
I was actually asking him the question.
Jay, none of us here are Miss Cleo. I mean, we're not going to be able to say this team would definitely win and this team would definitely not. But if you tell me you starting with that Warriors team and you replace Steph with Dame Lillard, I'm going to say they're still going to be contenders. And I actually have taken a crack at that question you asked, what is a Andrew Wiggins level point guard? The closest I'm coming up with is maybe Darius Garland this year. And I don't even know if that's great because he showed flashes of really having that game. But he's a first-time All-Star. His offensive impact was a lot lower than the Dame Lillards and Trae Young of the world.
But wait a second. I hear what everybody's – all I'm saying is the reason why this team even exists the way it's built is because of Steph.
Well, that's
it's because of Steph.
True. That's the reason that Trae plays the way he does.
You would never even get to this point. So now I see.
Though he said the reason.
I'm more yelling at Max, not Dre.
Oh no, okay.
This is more about.
I agree with that, Jay. If you're yelling at me, I agree that Steph, in his imagination and ability, invented all of this.
Only reason why.
But now it's here.
Only reason why I even asked Dre the question is so we could balance the Kevin Durant conversation and not argue. That's all. I wanted to
Malcolm Brogdon,
Yeah.
Klay Thompson, Kevin Durant, and Draymond Green would incinerate everything in sight. Incinerate. As soon as you put KD and Klay on a team with a point guard who can do some stuff and Dre, it's over. Let alone Steph, of course. But Steph is hitting a 500-foot home run. You put Brogdon in, it's still clear the fences, but it's 350.
Sure we don't overlook Draymond Green's importance to this team. Like, we keep adding him as like an add-on, like Ant Dre. Like, the argument can be made before Kevin Durant got there that Draymond was dang near as important as Steph to what they did because he was the best defensive player in the NBA and he was playing point guard on the offense.
And he's the pick and roll partner.
And he was a pick and roll partner. And part of what KD did when he got there was he kind of slid back Draymond's offensive importance. And you know, that comes to the argument of like the size of the pie. It's like what Kevin Durant did when he got to the Warriors. It wasn't that he made their pie bigger. He didn't make their offense, you know, much better than it was, their defense much better than it was. What he did was he took the huge pie they already had and cut it different so that he was the one getting a larger section of the scoring and maybe Steph's was a little smaller, Dre's was a little smaller, you know, Klay's was a little smaller. That's different than other players in that top 10 to 15 argument because almost all of them, when they go to a team, they make the pie bigger. We've never seen Kevin Durant do that, and that's part of, you know, that first question you asked, why he might need to show that he can do it outside of Golden State for people to really recognize it.
Yes or no? Will Kevin Durant ever win another NBA title? Yes or no, real quick?
I would say no because I don't believe in Brooklyn, but Max knows we've been having that argument for the last few years.
The great Andre Snellings, Dr. Dre, coming here and just infuriating Jay. I don't know why he infuriates you like that. Why do you let him get under your skin like that?
Fine.
I can't believe the way he just antagonized you. No, that's all the time we have. I'm sorry, Jay.
You know when Steph say, what are they going to say now? They're going to say that. Oh, you just